So coaching never do's. Coaching never do's. Never overwhelm the client. Never overwhelm the client. So they did a study on the most successful halfway houses. So what are halfway houses? Halfway houses are drug / jail prisoners being reintroduced to society, or drug addicts being reintroduced to society. So this is where they go. So they looked at halfway houses of criminals and basically drug addicts and alcoholics and all this kind of stuff, and those people getting reintroduced to society, and what did those halfway houses do to essentially keep them from repeating the offense. And what they found was, the way they laid it out was they only gave them one command a week. So the first one would have been, is actually make your bed. So they would have said to the, let's say the drug dealer in this case, you can do whatever you want. All you have to do every morning is make your bed. That's all we need you to do. And the drug dealer's, oh, is that all I got to do? Yes. So all you got to do is make your bed. So they'll make their bed, they'll go out for the day, do whatever they wanted, come back. Next week, let's say, all right, you need to make your bed and wash the dishes. Is that all I got to do? Yes. And then the next week, so forth. So there was these very small, incremental, bite-sized commands that they would give, and because it was more achievable, they actually had the best success rate. So the halfway houses that operated with small commands over a period of time were much more successful than the ones who just said, you have to only do this and this alone. They had much worse people re-offending. So the point with this is that you don't want to overwhelm your clients, and often it's better to ask for smaller bite-sized chunks that people can absolutely do, because what that does is it trains their discipline muscle. All right, discipline is a muscle, and if you want to make a weak discipline muscle, give yourself a command that you don't follow through with. The more you do that, the more you'll take your own word in your head as it's a joke. Right, so if I say something, I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Why? Because I'm used to saying stuff and doing it. Like, oh, I'm going to do this, and I do it, which means that when I say it becomes almost a habit now, it's ingrained in my head. Whereas other people, they say something and they don't do it, and they do it over and over and over and over again. Whereas they say things, oh, I'm going to brush my teeth now. Oh, it's too hard. No, I'm going to go to bed early. No, it's too hard. Right? You need to re-establish the discipline, because then it becomes a compliance trail of reinvigorating your word. In America, I'm not sure if it's true here, but if a naturopath overwhelms the client, which means that, let's say it was in Australia, you go see a naturopath, you do a consult, you call up APRA, which is the governing body of naturopathies, and say, oh, well, this naturopath overwhelmed me. I don't know what to do. I'm really overwhelmed. I'm really confused. She said I had gut bugs, and she said I had candida, and I think I have cancer. They will revoke the naturopath's license to treat. So it's a law over there. So in other words, if we apply that principle and put it into what we do as trainers, do not overwhelm the client, right? Do not confuse the client. Do not make them frantic. Like they say in sales, a confused client does not buy. An overwhelmed client does not succeed. So do not overwhelm your client. You have a client, would you rather act on nothing and tell them 1,000 amazing things? Would you rather B, act on one thing and tell them one thing, or C, act on 2 things but tell them 5 things? Well, I will argue, till I'm black and blue in the face, that the answer is B. Emphatically, the answer is B. I've said one thing and they act on one thing. And you might say, well, Mark, why not say 5 things and act on 2 things? Well, in saying that, it still feels like failure. They're not going to comply. They still feel like they failed. If I've told you to do 5 things and you haven't done 3 of them, but you've done 2, yeah, sure, you've done 2 of the things, but there's 3 things that you haven't done, which to you is like, oh, fuck, I'm such a loser. Especially with someone who already doesn't have discipline in there. Like, you got to realize that a lot of the clients that we're dealing with in health and fitness, they failed so many times. So many times. And a lot of the time when they see a trainer, it's really their last ditch effort. But the other thing I would say with that approach, if I'm telling them one thing and they're following one thing, I'm following up with them more regularly. So it's one thing maybe every 5 days, rather than 5 things at the start every 7 days, or every 10 days. So I'd rather smaller bite-sized chunks and do it more regularly.
Don't stop rolling, gotta get home.